Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. We appreciate you joining us again today. Well, we get a lot of requests for a lot of different kinds of pistols, and there are a lot of really great pistols out there to talk about. And today, based on a request once again, we're here to talk about the Canik, as Century Arms, the importer, calls it, Canik. However you say the name of this pistol, it translates into a really capable shooter in any language. And we're going to talk about why in just a minute. All right, once again, welcome back. We appreciate you joining us again today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, and or if you've watched our videos and you've never taken the opportunity to subscribe, if you wouldn't mind, if you look down in the lower right hand portion of your screen there, if you're on a computer, you see a little subscribe button. If you will hit that, or if you're on a mobile device, you can scroll down below the video and you can hit subscribe there. And if you hit the bell icon, you get notified when we make new videos. It does help us out a lot, and we really appreciate it. So, TP9 Elite Combat. So, this pistol has a lot of interesting features on it. You get a lot of really cool stuff right out of the box. And the pistol is a joy to shoot. There are so many things I'm going to talk about real quick. But let's start with the basics, like we always do here. And, you know, we're talking about a pistol that first came out, released, I believe, April of 2018, right in there. And the stuff in the box varies just a little bit between then and now, you know, as they go along. So just kind of looking the gun over, this is a 9mm polymer framed striker fired pistol. It does come with 2 magazines. The standard capacity magazine here is a 15 round, and they give you one of those, and then they give you one of these extended capacities that has this +3 extension. It does have a salient arms. We talked about some of the upgrades. Salient arms, if you're not familiar with them, they do a lot of high-end Glock upgrades and other things of that nature, you know, upgraded barrels and sights and internals, you name it. They make all those kinds of things. This pistol is equipped with a upgraded match grade salient arms barrel. It does have, it's a threaded barrel. You have your extended magazine release. You have a flat face trigger, which is aluminum. You do have ambidextrous slide stop here. Salient Arms does the sights on this gun. You have this metal rear notch sight, and then you have this metal and fiber optic front sight. And then the texturing, you've got these nice raised spots on the front. You've got good texturing on the side, and then the back strap here has got some aggressive texture. And they do give you a second one of those in case you want a little bit more in your hand. I was pretty comfortable with the standard size, and so that's what I went with. You do have an accessory rail. And you do have these slide serrations on the front and on the rear. In addition, you do have a optics plate that can go on this gun if you want to. And we'll talk about that a little more as we get on into this thing. So a little basic size comparison. We always like to start there. For the purposes of this, the closest thing in my mind, and I went with overall how the gun feels, carries, and features, all that kind of good stuff. My SIG 229 Elite is really the closest gun to me as far as the weight and how this gun feels when it's on my hip. Because they're both pretty heavy, you know, when they're loaded. They are big guns. And, and they're not the exact same size, obviously. Everybody knows kind of where I'm going with this. The slide on the SIG, of course, is not as big as the TP9, but by the time you add in the beaver tail, and, obviously that's going to matter. If you've ever carried a gun, you know what I'm talking about. The overall length does matter for comfort. And when you look at them, the thickness of the guns is very similar. Looking at them from the rear, very similar profile. You get that, if you look at the SIG and the TP9 sticks out a little bit more on the bottom, but that's just because it does have that extended magazine. If you take that out of this pistol and just put the regular magazine in it, as you can see, it ends up being, you look at it now, look at the grip here and look at the grip on this one, they look very, very similar. So anyway, I wanted you to see that because most people, I imagine, knowing they have a +3 capacity, will probably carry the larger magazine. And there are some other features, kind of common things that the that SIG 229 shares with the TP9. It's not things that you might think. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. But that's kind of your basic overview of your size and your features on the TP9 Elite Combat. All right, so obviously we do have some other things to talk about here. Your field strip disassembly of the weapon. Now, this is kind of interesting because there's a few things you got to keep in mind, considerations, when you take this weapon apart. So obviously, for starters, we're going to eject our magazine. That's Gun Safety 101. And then we're going to ensure that the firearm is clear. We can all see there's nothing in the barrel. There's no magazine, so we are clear. All right, so one of the first things you're going to want to do here is, obviously this has got a threaded barrel and it's got a protector over the end of it. So you need to take that off. Now, on the TP9 Elite Combat, they actually give you a little wrench here to loosen that up with, which I've already done. Just be real careful when you do that. For me, if I get a few scratches on my guns, it doesn't really bother me because I shoot my guns. I use them. They're like any other tool. And I try not to abuse them, obviously, but I'm not going to worry if I get a small amount of, scratching or whatever on it. But if you want to keep that from, just be real careful when you take that off. All right, so as far as the disassembly, now a lot of pistols that look this way that have these notches for release, a lot of people are thinking Glock. You pull down and you slide the slide all the way off the frame. Well, this is a little bit different. So you are going to grab it and pull it slightly to the rear. And yes, there's a notch on either side. You're going to grab those simultaneously and grab, but then you're going to push the slide forward about an inch and then just lift it off. That's how you do it on this one. You don't want to jam it forward because there's a possibility you can do damage and you don't want to do that. So then the rest of this is going to look pretty familiar to you. You've got your recoil spring in there, which you just push out to release, just like that. And then here's our barrel. And so you tip up and then just gently pull this thing right on out. And once again, this is that upgraded Salient Arms match grade barrel, so that's pretty nice. And you can see you've got the weapon apart. It's pretty simple. Now, looking at this, they do have all these parts are coated. They actually take a lot of steps, in protecting the metal and coating all these parts. So that's a good thing as far as, how they'll last and how they'll wear. Obviously, as with any pistol, when you have it apart like this, you can see the places on the pistol, the notches. I always like to put a little bit of oil on these right here. No matter what pistol it is, I'm always going to put a little oil here. And I'm always going to put just a tiny bit on the internals. Not a lot, just maybe a drop. Because I don't want, I don't like oil just running out of the gun. That's just something I have a problem with. So anyway, to put this back together, it's pretty simple. You've got your barrel once again. And so we're going to come back and we're going to insert the barrel back where it belongs, just like that. You've got your recoil spring. Make sure that you get it pushed in there, and then you want to go down to the, make sure you go down to the second step there, if you can see that. See, there's the first and the second one. Push it down to that second mark there. That's where it goes. Okay, so reassembly. Obviously, if we had to take it off in a certain position, it has to go back on in that same position. So if you'll look at the notch here on the slide, and then you look at the guide on the frame here, just bring it over to where the mark lines up. And then if you look at the back, of course, you'll make sure that your slide and your frame are aligned, and then you just pull back just like that. And that's back together. And at this point, all you have to do is take your thread protector and you come right back down. And you can snug that up, and of course, you can use your wrench to make sure that it's good and tight. And then we obviously function check the weapon, make sure everything is good, and it's back together. So as you can see, it's a very simple process on the TP9 Elite Combat for your basic disassembly and reassembly. Alright, so now we get to talk about the fun part in the range. And once again, you know, we really want to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful TP9 Elite Combat. As of the time of this recording, they have these available in stock for you. You can reach them at www.donsweapons.com. They're really good folks, and they'll take care of you. So, what's so special about this? Why is this exciting? Well, I told you that this gun shares some things, you know, with the SIG that I used as an example. And really what I'm talking about is kind of performance. Now, the guns are different in every possible way you can think of, because we're talking about a striker fired pistol versus a hammer fired on the SIG. But what I'm really talking about here is the trigger. And I can talk about a lot of stuff, but I've got to talk about this trigger. So, like I said, this is a flat face aluminum trigger. And the reset on this trigger is just amazing. So we recycle this. Now watch this. Did you see that? Because it happened pretty fast. I'll show you again. That is one of the shortest trigger resets that I've seen on a pistol like this. It is absolutely amazing. And when you're shooting the weapon, that reset, the weapon handles the recoil very well. So that ability to keep firing and firing that short, I mean, you can really bring follow-up shots in a hurry. And just to give you an idea of how good of a reset that is, well, this is that SIG 229 Elite, and we're verified clear here. So we're gonna do the same thing, but watch this. Okay, so we take our shot, we recycle the slide, and watch this. All right, so this is an SRT. This is the short reset trigger. This trigger and the trigger on that TP9 are, to me, almost identical as far as the reset. And that's saying a lot, for a lot of reasons. You're talking about a pistol, the MSRP on the TP9 Elite Combat is $849.99. That is great. If I remember correctly, that SIG 229 Dark Elite was somewhere in the $1,500 range. So there's a huge difference in the money between the pistols, and they both have really, really excellent triggers. Now, we were talking about some other interesting things here. I mentioned, you know, this optics plate here. They provide you a plate that you can mount in place of this to mount your optic. And by the way, you can buy this pistol from them with an optional Vortex Viper red dot sight, and it changes the price by $100. If you're not familiar with the Vortex Viper sight, I've got one here on this Glock 19 MOS. It's a pretty good little red dot. I've used this one a lot, and it's pretty accurate. It's really fun to shoot. The controls are here on the side. The only thing I don't like about this red dot is you have to take it off the gun to change the battery. Yeah, you have to take these two screws off and physically take it off, because underneath there it uses that little, you know, round lithium battery, and it goes up underneath there. So you have to remove it to change the battery. Now the battery lasts a long time. I think it's been over a year since I changed the battery in this thing, and I use it a lot. So it's not really that big of a deal. But anyway, that's what the Viper looks like if you went with that option. But the other interesting thing is they give you that plate, and if you do have this mounted on the gun, they actually give you this little mini charging handle that can go on the plate. So whenever you have this mounted to the weapon, you know, if you want, you can use this little charging handle to pull back. Now, to me, that wouldn't be practical in the real world of carry, but if you were using this as a, you know, a competition pistol or something like that, I could see that. So it's pretty neat. But once again, the regular sights is what I used with this, and the weapon performed really well. We used a combination of Winchester and Federal, 2 or 3 different types of defensive ammo. I usually try and bring a little bit of everything, you know, SIG and the Crown. I bring Hornady, and the TP9 Elite Combat did a very good job with every ammo that we gave it. And not only did it did a good job, there wasn't any failures, there wasn't any problems, but the gun is just a joy to shoot. It manages recoil very well. Groups, I mean, when you pick a gun up out of the box, there were some other people present at the range when we were talking about this, and another gentleman had his TP9 Elite. He had just got it in, and that gun actually ended up being one of the ones that got shot a whole lot because he just couldn't put it down. And the really interesting thing is that we had some people that were not that good as shooters, and when they picked up this pistol, they were able to make really good shot groups pretty quickly. And I guess that's a testament to how well the gun works, and the features, and how well balanced it is. So range performance, very good. Gentleman also had brought a light. And he shot the gun with and without the light, and it didn't really make that much difference. Sometimes if you have something mounted on the front, you know, it can affect the balance, but this pistol seemed to be about the same, regardless of whether he had the light on it or not. So anyway, overall range performance, very good, very reliable, really good shooter. All right, well, obviously, we wouldn't be doing our job here if we didn't talk about carry. So this is one of those guns that falls into that category of what I like to call a winter carry gun, because it's a little bigger than what I'm going to carry typically with lighter clothing. I mean, you know, I showed you the size comparison. This thing is just as big as that SIG 229 Elite. And even with the magazine, even with the extended magazine out of it, with the regular capacity magazine, it's still pretty big. You know, it's a pretty big gun. Now, these guys have, once again, they give you lots of goodies with this package. And one of the things that they do give you with this is a holster. Now this little holster they give you, this little Kydex, this is an outside the waistband holster, but it's pretty nice. It's got a pretty solid amount of retention. It holds the gun really well, and they just give you this. Earlier versions of the gun that came out had like a paddle holster, and they had another different type holster, had a push button release. This one's just a simple, Kydex holster, and they give you that, and it works pretty well. So I carried the gun in the holster they provide, and like I say, I usually carry in the waistband. I do have some outside the waistband holsters, and this gun was actually pretty comfortable carrying outside the waistband. Obviously this was, I had an undershirt and I had a untucked, button-down shirt. And the gun's kind of hard to hide that way. I'd like to try it with a good inside the waistband holster, so I'm working on getting another one for that. But it wasn't obvious. I've seen some guns that, they print so badly that it's a joke to even call it concealed. But in the holster they give you, it's not too bad. So let's talk about the weight. Well, this is where I was talking about there's some similarities with the SIG. This is a really heavy gun, and so is this. Now, I'm not saying that that's a no-go at all, because I can carry a heavy gun just fine. But what you are going to want to make sure you have is a really good carry belt. And there are a lot of good options out there, but one thing that I found that worked extremely well was this belt made by Core. This is one of the stiffest, strongest belts that I've ever used. And it hardly moves at all. And that's what you want in a, like if you have a standard, leather belt, it'll move and you'll find your belt banding and sagging, and they make lots of good ones. This is just one that I picked up that is really awesome. It's done a great job for me. Once again, you can pick those up over at Don's Weaponry if you don't have one. But that belt worked really good, and I've got some others that work really well for that same purpose. But it does have enough weight, and it does have enough size that I definitely would consider this a gun that I would only carry in the winter when I can have more clothing to do so in a comfortable manner. So, not bad. If you are the kind of person that can carry a larger firearm and you have a good holster, then there's no reason you can't do it with this one. So, overall impressions. Well, let's talk about some of what you get. So, we're talking about they call it the enhanced trigger, flat face aluminum trigger. So you have a really nice trigger on this thing. You get this free retention holster, which I think is pretty cool. You've got your various performance upgrades from Salient Arms, sights, internals, barrel, which is really nice. It's a match grade barrel, slide and frame, Cerakote over nitride. Really, really good quality has gone into a lot of this stuff. You got your optics adapter plate that you can put the little charging handle if you want to. That's pretty cool. I've actually never even seen that on a pistol, and I wouldn't do it, not for something I carry, but if you were competing or something, that might be neat. You do have your accessory rail. You got your extended magazine release, of course, which is reversible. You've got your ambidextrous slide release, which is cool. And, of course, they give you 2 magazines. They probably could have given you more, but, 2 magazines isn't bad. And, and they also give you one little mag loaders here. A lot of people really like these. I never even use them. For some reason, I get these with lots of different guns, and I never use them. Maybe I should, make my life easier. But with everything they give you, if you look at it, you're talking about a pistol, once again, that has an MSRP of $849. If you wanted to upgrade and have a red dot Viper built in, once again, you can get that optic on the gun, and it makes it $949 for retail. Which is good. The only thing I don't like about the Viper, once again, is that you have to remove it to change the battery. But that's not the end of the world. So, the gun. I've talked about all the pluses, and there's a lot of pluses. And when I think about it and I look it over and we talk about ergonomics and how the gun shoots and how it feels, there's really only one negative for me, and it's a very small thing, and I worked through it pretty easy. For me, and a lot of the stuff you'll hear me talk about is concerns for people who have medium to larger hands, which is what I have. I mean, I don't have the biggest hand in the world, but it's pretty big. When you add this aluminum, mag well here, and it's got a little bit of a curve to start with, but that third finger, it's on the grip, but it's in kind of a weird place. Now, once I started shooting, I didn't really notice because, once my hands were where they belong and I started shooting the pistol, I felt pretty good about it. My hand felt like it was where it needed to be. The finger stayed put. I didn't feel like that it was only a 2-finger grip. It did feel like a 3-finger grip, so that's pretty good. The extended magazine release, to me, isn't a bad place. I ended up, by the time my grip's in place, my thumb kind of wants to rest on that mag release, which I don't think is a good thing. So I played with my grip a little bit to work around that. So once again, those are two very, very minor things. And the more I shot this, the less either of those things became an issue. So you're talking about a pistol that retails at a really good price. Between all the performance upgrades, sights, you've got the optics upgrade capability. It's comfortable to carry if you have a good holster and belt. Like I said, once again, for me, it's going to be more of a winter gun than a summer gun. And it's just a great shooter. So if you're a good shooter and you pick up the TP9 Elite Combat, I bet that you'll shoot this gun very well. And if you don't shoot well at all, it could very well make you a better shot. So overall, great pistol at a great price. All jokes aside, there is some question about the pronunciation of this gun, which is why I gave you that little bit in the beginning. Apparently, Century Arms, people who import it, they call it Canik, and I hear a lot of people say that too. But apparently people on the other side, as far as the gun's made in Turkey, and apparently the proper language, they said, it is supposed to be more on more along the lines of Canik or a Canik. And here, of course, whatever makes you happy, just call it what you want, because in whatever language it is, the TP9 Elite is an awesome gun. So we appreciate you guys joining us again today for this video. If you got any other questions about the gun or about anything else, or if you have something to contribute about it, we always welcome your input. We have a really good group of subscribers and viewers that provide a lot of good input on the weapons that we review, and that helps the whole community. So we thank you for doing that, and just keep that up. Once again, if you have an idea about what you want to see, you can comment about it, or you can email us, whatever you like. We appreciate all your support. And once again, if you haven't taken the time to do so, subscribe to our channel. If you go there in the lower right-hand portion of the screen, you can hit subscribe there, or you can scroll down if you're on a mobile device and do it there. Thanks once again. We really appreciate all your support, and we'll be back very soon with another video. So until then, be safe. Have a great day.